Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you're joining from in the world. My name is Nikhil Mistry. I'm the Marketing and Communications Chair for the MEPA Bridge chapter. We're here today to learn from Kara Brown, who's going to talk to us about LinkedIn and lead generation. Before we jump in, I wanted to just get through some housekeeping stuff. So if possible, please let us see you. Let us interact face to face. I'd love to get to see your faces and get to know you all. I see some familiar names, but I'm waiting for faces to come up. Here they come. Great, wonderful. I'll ask that you keep your mics off. We're going to have some time for Q&A at the end. I'll leave it to Kara if she wants to, make it interactive so that she'll lead it on her own. If you have any questions that you want to ask, put them in the chat while we're going along, and then we'll look at them towards the end of the session. I want to give a welcome to any new to EO people who are on this call. If you're interested in joining EO, we're going to be talking about that after Kara's given her presentation. So welcome to MEPA Bridge members. Welcome to all the other members in the region that have joined us today from other chapters. By the last count, I was checking along before we joined the event. We had 14 different chapters registered for today's event. So we're really global today. So I think that's kind of comes with the territory when you're talking about MEPA Bridge. It's how we do things. So wonderful, great stuff, great stuff. Now, before I jump in, Kara Brown is an expert in B2B conversion. I think that's why we're all here. She's the founder of Lead Coverage, which is an Atlanta-based marketing and sales enablement company. She's also an EO member herself, based in Atlanta, and I believe she's currently serving on the board. So she's one of us sharing her knowledge with the rest of us. I'll be very honest, I'm a very casual LinkedIn user. I'm only on LinkedIn because everybody tells me I should be. When I get in there, I feel like I don't fit. I'm a business owner. I haven't written a CV or a resume in 20 years, but I know that it works for lead gen. I've heard stories about fantastic outcomes, and just your headline had me, Kara. When I saw it, I was like, yeah, this is what I want. So I'm really here with a beginner's mindset. I'm really here to learn, and I hope the others here joining the call are too. But before I hand over to you, Kara, I'm actually interested to hear from other members. I don't know how to use LinkedIn for lead gen. I know other people do, and I'm going to pick on someone and ask them. Who's on my screen? Vinod. Vinod, hi. Can you come off mute? How do you use LinkedIn?
Yeah, see, two purpose, like when you use LinkedIn. One, you are using the platform for branding, and you create a lot of awareness among your customers or the influencers. But there are a couple of companies who see some of the posts, some of the, like for example, we run a company called Stonefield Flavors. So we propose various end application solutions for FMCGs. So wherein some of the colleagues in FMCG R&D, they see some concepts we post in LinkedIn. They say, yeah, I love that concept. Can I get more information? So it happens, but I don't see, whenever you post, you keep getting bundle of inquiries. No, it doesn't happen that way. Yeah.
I feel the same. Whenever I post, I seem all I get are job applications. So I have a lot of job seekers in my connection.
Yes, I agree.
That's how it's supposed to be. Great. Divakar, do you use LinkedIn?
I'm on LinkedIn, but I don't use it regularly. As a business, we are just going through the LinkedIn learning curve now. So we've engaged a coach who's working with our senior management and leadership to guide us on what should be the philosophy and approach towards LinkedIn marketing. Last 4 months, we've gone through the journey and we still haven't yet implemented it. We are still in the final phases of that.
So I feel like the timing is right for this kind of a talk, Karen. And here's what I want to do. We normally take a photo of the event towards the end of the event, but I kind of want to do it now while I have everyone's attention. And most of you still haven't put your cameras on. So I'm going to ask you one more time if you can do that for us, please. And then Alex, if you can do your thing with the camera. Let's get everybody's faces up on screen. I see them coming up. Some people are still shy. That's okay. It's a safe space.
Good there. Come in. Come on. On 3. We have 3 more people. All right. So 1, 2, 3. Ta-da!
Okay, I love it.
Hey, hold on. Second page. Hold on. You have more people.
Yeah.
All just smile there. 1, 2, 3. Ta-da!
All right. Thanks so much, Alex. Okay, Kara, I won't take up any more of your time. So take it away.
I am so excited to be here with you. Thank you so much for the invitation to join you today and this super warm welcome. So I don't have any slides today. We don't love slides, if I'm totally honest, but I'm going to tell you some kind of fun stories, and I will leave you with a leave behind of some of the cool stuff that's happening in all things B2B marketing. It's also 7 o'clock in the morning my time, 8 o'clock in the morning now. So you've all had your day, starting mine, and I'm so excited to be here with you. So a couple of the things about my background, they're kind of cool and interesting, which is sort of, everyone always asks, I'm sure you get this too, how did you start your business? Why did you start your business? And specifically, what is your business? So really quickly, like Nikhil said, I'm an EO Atlanta member. I'm from Chicago. And about 1 million years ago, I sent the first Groupon email, which was super cool. I got to watch Groupon grow sort of in the office next door. I worked for a shipping company that was sort of the first company that they had started. So it's a super long story. Got to help Groupon get started, super fun, and have been in supply chain ever since. So my target market are 3PLs, freight forwarders, ocean shipping carriers, right? So anyone who sort of touches the space. If you're in the space, you'll know that Expeditors, one of the biggest forwarders in the world, was hacked in early February. So these are things that we talk about with our customers on a regular basis. But today I'm here to talk to you about lead gen and a very simple formula. I'm going to start with a story. We'll talk a little bit about lead gen and how we approach it. I'll end with sort of a funny story, and then I'll open it up to questions, and I'll have a leave behind for you on some of the cool tips and tricks that we're seeing and that we're using on behalf of our clients. So to set the stage, our clients, the folks that we do this for, are 3G TMS, Expeditors, Project 44, Redwood Logistics, big enterprise supply chain management companies. So if it works for them, relatively unsexy, big companies, it can work for you, right? Okay, so it's 2013, and I am a shiny new consultant. I'm downtown Chicago. I'm very excited. I'm on my own. One of my first clients is a Silicon Valley-based trucking digital freight broker. It doesn't really matter what that really means, but these guys are, they're brokering freight every day, all the trucks, and we're doing it for all kinds of shippers. It's my job to get truck drivers and shippers to work with us. And I've got a few digital tools in my tool bag, but I've got a whole team of sales reps. So I have 25 sales reps on the floor, and I have 8 reps on a desk that are sort of my guinea pigs. I can sort of try whatever I want. In my world, marketing is just testing, right? We're just testing a whole bunch of stuff. And I'm the right girl for the job. I've got this. We're doing great, right? So my 8 sort of guinea pigs work together to test some of the crazy stuff that I come up with. And we're testing a new tool at the time. Remember, it's 2013, and a new tool called Outreach, which is now a $4 billion company. But at the time, it was new and small. And I can send 800 emails a night on behalf of my sales reps every night. So I write the email. It comes from Nikhil. It comes from Alexandra. It comes from Eric. And it goes out on their behalf. But I'm the one that writes the email. We're crushing it, right? We're doing great. We get these, essentially what they're called marketing qualified leads. If you don't have a super sophisticated tech stack, this is essentially people saying, yeah, all right, I'm interested. Let's talk about it. And we're crushing it. So we had about a 20% marketing qualified lead rate. Everybody's happy. But of these 8 people, one person is getting 4 or 5 point higher open and replies than everyone else. This person is Shannon, the only woman. And I'm a little irritated because I'm doing all the work. Shannon's getting all the glory. And the only thing she's doing different is her name is Shannon. Great. So we turn all the boys into girls. So Joe becomes Rachel, Bob becomes Sheila, and we have a big whiteboard behind us, right? So if Joe goes to the bathroom, we know that he has to answer the phone for Sheila. Clearly, we didn't actually turn them into new people. We gave them a second email address that was coming from a woman. We test it, and it works like crazy. So we have a 50% marketing qualified lead rate coming from a female email address. We're crushing the quarter. Things are great. But I think we can do just a little bit better. So I'm talking to a girlfriend, and she says to me, who are you emailing? I was like, well, basically truckers, right? For lack of a better word, basically truckers. She goes, girl, You got to give them even sillier names, right? Think what truckers like. So we used Bambi and Candy and Angel. We tested again and it works again. We crushed it. So we doubled the marketing qualified lead rate across the board. We had a 95% open rate on some of these really silly subject lines that we tested, like, I need your load, show me your truck. I mean, just really silly things that we tested, and it was awesome. So it worked really well, really well. So we tested our way to 60% growth in my current company in 2020 and 68% growth in 2021. And we do these sort of testing new things all the time. And I'm going to share some of the things that have really worked for us. The lead gen formula is very simple. We're going to break it down to 3 steps. We're going to spend the next 20 minutes or so sort of going through the formula, and then I'm going to give you some cool tips and tricks, and then we can answer any questions. The formula is share good news, track who's interested, follow up. It sounds really, really simple, right? Too simple. You're like, okay, Kara, thanks a lot for your genius insight into my business. But for the most part, in my experience, a lot of businesses are doing some of this, right? Maybe my LinkedIn engine is getting started, or I'm starting to use HubSpot, or I'm answering some of these emails, but sometimes some things fall through the cracks, and almost no one is tracking it at a macro level, right? Truly tracking how much you're sharing, who is actually interested, and following up effectively. So we're going to start at the top, sharing good news. So you can't put new leads into the top of your sales funnel if they haven't heard of you. This is pretty obvious, right? The advertising industry uses a term coined literally in the 1880s called effective frequency to explain how many times a human needs to see your brand before it's remembered. And remember, humans buy from humans. We may be business to business owners, most of us on the call today, but humans still buy from humans. And if a human doesn't know who you are, they can't buy from you. So the effective frequency rate back in the 1880s used to be 7. In 2022, it's 77. 77. A prospect needs to see your brand, your name, your company name, almost 100 times before they even register who you are, right? You want to know who gets remembered? Silly names like Bambi. It's okay, I digress. All right, so 3 ways to share good news. Really, really simple, things that are cheap and easy, right? My first tip on LinkedIn. Number 1, hire a social media ghostwriter, right? My most effective, cheapest marketing engine is my ghostwriter. So she and I meet once a week, every Tuesday at 4 o'clock. We talk for 40 minutes or so. She writes 4 LinkedIn posts for me. My team then gets those LinkedIn posts, and we use a social media tool to post. I'll talk more about the tech at the end of the talk. But this social media ghostwriter is really just taking my words and physically typing them out. I don't know about you, but I find myself looking at a blank screen like, oh gosh, I feel like I have to post to LinkedIn today. So much easier if someone else is doing it for you, and they're really, really inexpensive. There are lots of tools to do this. We like Sprout Social, mostly because it has the best tracking tools, but there are lots of free posting tools like Hootsuite and Social Charm is a bunch of them. I've got a bunch on a list for you before the talk is over. Okay, so number 1, get a ghostwriter, start posting to LinkedIn. We'll talk more about that in a minute. 2 is don't underestimate the power of the trade magazine, right? I'm in supply chain. We have very sexy trade magazines like Supply and Demand Chain Executive and Inbound Logistics. Very sexy, very sexy. But you probably have the same, right? Coffee, material handling, whatever you're doing, rugs, whatever it is that you're in the business you're in, there's definitely a trade magazine out there, right? Have this ghostwriter write up your thoughts and submit it as what we call a byline. A byline is 400 to 800 words on what your perspective is on the marketplace. And these trade magazines are always looking for content, and they're always looking for contributors. Then you use their social media to post from their social to your social. Even the smallest trade magazine, right? Fasteners Today has more of a reach than you individually. So use their reach to reach your audience, right? Super simple. It's a win-win for them and big exposure for you. Number 3 in our share good news tips is make a plan and work it. right? We're all familiar with EOS and scaling up and all the things. Same idea in content, right? Get yourself a content calendar, delegate it to someone, have them build you a content calendar, and use it, work it. There's a gazillion on the internet that you can download them. We recommend an 80-20 split. So 80% of the content should be planned, really beforehand, we call it evergreen, and 20% should be market driven. There's a bunch of really big stuff happening in the market today, like a lot, right? There's a Russian invasion of Ukraine. The Baltic Sea is being blocked. China's shutting down again. Every single one of you can have an opinion on what's going on in the international marketplace at any point and how it's affecting your business. That's meaningful and that should be shared. So that 20% based on organic should be coming from you. And it's a great thing to talk about with your ghostwriter. All right. I started posting on LinkedIn as Kara. The other thing that's really important to notice or to know is that LinkedIn rewards human conversations. Okay. This means do not post from your business LinkedIn account. You need to post from your personal LinkedIn account and have humans around you engaging in that content, right? Pretty simple. So I started posting as Kara, not as my company, about January 2020, when the rest of the world sort of fell apart. We can attribute 2 LinkedIn posts to about $500,000 in revenue in the thick of the pandemic, right? So for those of you doing fast math, that's an ROI of about $450,000 on my ghostwriter. So she is not going anywhere. She's my favorite employee. So let's talk a little bit about like LinkedIn and what to post, okay? Number 1, share. Often, too much, all the time. There's never enough content out there. The entire LinkedIn ecosystem is 775 million users. Less than 2% of those users ever post. So just by posting every 2 weeks, every week, twice a week, whatever you can get to, you are part of the 2% club on LinkedIn that are actually sharing news, right? Which immediately makes you sort of a thought leader. There are a couple of types of posts, and I'll share sort of my 3 favorites. Number 1 is vulnerability. We're all NEO. We know how to be vulnerable, right? Maybe don't share the 5%, but something else that's a challenge, right? I'm a woman in business, right? Immediate challenges are easy for me. So I talk about being a woman in business. I talk about really hard time hiring people. We talk about what's happening in macroeconomics and how it's affecting our business. People want to hear the sort of personal side of you. It doesn't have to be a lot, but it can be every once in a while. You should share a personal something. Number 2, share someone else's win, right? We just made the Inc. 5000. It's a really big deal here in the States. We're one of the fastest growing companies in the Southeast. Someone else, all of you, shameless plug, can go share my content and you can get looked at. So you'll have visibility to everyone in my network, right? So share your not your competitors, but your compatriots' good news, right? Friends in your space, influencers in your space, share their good news. All you have to do is hit the reshare button. Super, super easy. Last is be controversial. I don't recommend dropping swear words into your posts, but have a controversial or a contrarian opinion, right? One of the things that I posted last year was that digital trade shows are a waste of money, right? No one should be going to or paying to be a part of a digital trade show, which was pretty controversial. Some people liked it, some people didn't, but it was how I felt. And I wanted to make sure my audience understood how I felt about it. Another is, like I said before, I'm in freight forwarding. Flexport has been hacked. No one's talking about it in the space. So we're talking about it, right? Have a contrarian opinion. You get a lot more likes and shares. Number 2, sort of big key things on LinkedIn is engage. You must comment, like, and share. You don't have to do it yourself. You can have a VA do it. You can have someone else do it for you. You can use Sprout Social to do it. It's an automatic tool, so you can set it to like, share, and engage things. But LinkedIn rewards human connections. So just go down and like, share, and engage. Last one here on LinkedIn is connect with everyone. Why not? So they send you a random email. Who cares? Ignore it. The bigger the audience, the bigger the LinkedIn algorithm, but get really clear on targeting who your audience is, liking, sharing, engaging their content. And then if you want to, we can talk offline about how to track hashtags and how to track trends. We won't go into that today. But there's some really cool tools that will help you on this journey. And I'll share those at the end of the talk. All right. But Kara, it takes so much time. I don't have time to do this. I hear you. I hear you. I'm a busy business owner too. It doesn't have to. I spend 30 minutes with my ghostwriter every Tuesday, and the rest is automated by my team, right? And like I said before, she's my cheapest marketing channel. So, but Kara, oh my gosh, that's so great. You do this all the time. It sounds like you're an expert in this. How do you know that these 2 leads that equal $500,000 in revenue for you came from LinkedIn? I'm so glad you asked. Because we track everything. Everything is tracked, right? So number 2 in our lead gen formula is track who's interested. We're going to talk about the marketing technology stack, or the MarTech stack, okay? This includes your customer relationship management system, or your CRM. Usually it's Salesforce or HubSpot or something else. Marketing automation, usually Salesforce, Pardot, Marketo, Eloqua, HubSpot, right? There's lots of options. And any other tech that your team uses. The average business-to-business marketing tech stack is 17 pieces of technology. It's a shocking amount. So B2B marketers are not technologists. We don't build tech, but we are technology super users, right? How these go together is super important. So in full transparency, I'm a former Salesforce admin, know a lot about Pardot and Marketo, but I'm also the business is now a HubSpot Diamond partner. So we think HubSpot is the coolest tool, right? But this market is insane. The market for MarTech tools grows every year. Demandbase says by the end of 2025, we will have 30,000 marketing technology tools to choose from. So it can feel a little overwhelming. What's really important is that the center of your marketing tech stack universe should be your customer relationship management tool. But no matter the tech stack that you choose, one thing is true. If you're not filling the top of your funnel with leads, your competition is, right? Someone is filling the top of this funnel with leads. So in the right tech stack, you have the power to know when your prospects are in a buying cycle. This is true. We can now see if Nikhil is interested in lead gen services, if he happens to have a freight forwarding company, which I don't know if he does or not, and he was looking for lead gen, I can know in ahead of time if he is actually looking for something in my space, or if he's already bought something in my space and he's no longer interested. You have the power to know that. Number 2, you have the power to know how interested is this prospect. So you've got someone you've been talking to for a year and a half, or maybe 6 months, whatever it is. You can tell inside the CRM, because of the democratization of these tools, if they're going to buy and their propensity to buy. And then lastly, you can also see what content is going to make them buy. This is all entirely possible. It takes time and effort to get that sophisticated in your marketing tech stack, but everything you need is within the HubSpot or the Salesforce technology engine. I'm happy to answer any questions. The other kind of cool thing is the technology is really, really creepy. So I can follow you around the internet, and it's like really, really cheap. So it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. So easy, number 1, intent data, number 1. You can see if Nikhil is on your website. That's number 1. Number 2, you can see what he's doing on your website. Has he downloaded? What has he downloaded? What's he looking at? Is he opening emails? And you can set a threshold for when you want to go ahead and contact him, right? And you can flag all this content in real time. Super, super creepy. Just wait. It's getting worse. It gets so much worse. It gets so much creepier, and it's getting so much cheaper. We can now see what other people inside Nikhil's organization are also searching for. So if they're searching for a competitor, we can see that, and we can aim ads right at Nikhil's team. Not necessarily at him, but at the people around him who are going to influence his decision. It's super creepy and it's super cheap. It's called intent data, and it's coming to a CRM near you, right? There are 3 types of intent. There is primary intent, what lives in your CRM, your marketing automation engine. Secondary intent, which comes from programmatic media buying. And tertiary intent, which literally is what it sounds like, third party. It is literally scraping the internet to find the keywords that are important to you. Pro tip, I'm going to stop. This is not part of my normal talk. Pro tip, do not buy intent data from ZoomInfo. If you already have, I am sorry. Wait till your contract's out and buy it from someone else. It's a super long story. I'm happy to tell you actually the details. I got on the phone with the CIO of ZoomInfo. Their intent data is something that we don't like very much. So anyway, back to the talk. So if you know all these things, right? If you have the right tech stack to see all these things, you can get closer to Bambi or Nikhil or whoever it is, seeing your brand 100 times, right? This is the goal. They have to see your brand 100 times so they know who you are, so that when you do pick up the phone and call them, that they have any understanding of who you are at all. And if you think your competition is not doing this, they are for sure. They are for sure doing this. This is becoming cheaper and easier every day. All right. So sounds good, Kara. Sounds really great. We're still talking about tracking who's interested. I want to talk about what do you track? Okay. The actual physical things you're going to track in your system and why does it matter? We think there are 3 KPIs that are super important in any MarTech stack. And if you're going to hire someone to do this for you, these are the 3 things they should be tracking: volume, velocity, and value. These show up in different ways depending on your business, right? Volume for someone may be net funds employed. For someone else, it might be top line revenue. For someone else, it might be number of shipments. It doesn't matter for us. But volume is the foundation of all revenue operations math, right? The higher the volume, the more useful the data. Pretty obvious. So really important is that everything is in one tool. To be able to see all the volume at one point in one place is one tool, right? So whether it's Salesforce, HubSpot, Marketo, doesn't matter to us. Velocity is speed. How fast are things moving from first touch to close deal, right? We had a client that had a 97-day from demo to transacting velocity. It took 97 days for someone to say, yes, show me a demo, to a closed deal. By the time we wrapped up our engagement with them, that was 9.7. A 10x reduction in velocity equaled a 3x multiple on their top line. I can't talk about the margin inside the business because that wasn't my fault, but a 3x margin on the top line, which gave them clearly an opportunity to go and raise some money, which is great. So the velocity to close is the next thing that we check. So how fast does it take to go from the top of funnel all the way through to the close one? We can improve this velocity using technology, right? So these CRM marketing automation engines aren't just for top of the funnel. They can also be for getting folks that are interested to close faster, right? Lastly is value. Value is pretty simple. It's how much is this deal worth to you? A million years ago, when I worked for Groupon, one of the guys that started the company said to me, Kara, it costs just as much money and energy to manage a $2,500 account as it does a $250,000 account. So go focus your time and energy on the valuable leads in your system, right? So whatever value you're putting on your leads is literally how much is the deal worth divided by the cost to acquire this customer. We can get really detailed in CAC and like how much CAC should be per different business, et cetera. But really important for this particular talk is the value is how much is this deal worth to you? We track a lot of metrics in this, right? Customer acquisition cost, annual run rate per deal, lifetime value. There's a lot of ways to do this. But when you're talking to your team, volume, velocity, and value. And if you can track those 3 things, you can sort of see the levers to pull for growth. The goal is to track at least one that can show you at least one metric, whether it's MQL, SQL, or a top line to bottom line, whatever it is, that can show you the volume of leads, how fast they're going through the system, and what is the value that they are to you. And if you see these are off, trying a different thing, right? Going back to the beginning and trying some new tactics to get higher value, faster converting, and more volume. As you start to build your KPI dashboard, this is really easy. We can talk about KPI dashboards if you want to chat later. So last step of the process, we talked about share good news, LinkedIn, don't forget trade media, public relations are super important. Track who's interested, right? Using cool democratized tech tools to make sure you're tracking everything, volume, velocity, and value. Last is follow up, right? This is very exciting. We are getting it really back to the Stone Age here. Are you ready? Are you ready? You have to pick up the phone, right? You got to pick up the phone. Sales.com did a study with Inside Sales.com and HBS, sorry, Harvard Business Review, Harvard Business School, and Sales.com, Inside Sales.com did a study in 2016, which is getting dated, and I wish they'd do it again because it's sort of old. Says that if you can talk to a human, physically talk to a human within 5 minutes of them showing you a buying signal, you have a 900% better chance to close that deal than if you wait 10 minutes. I'm going to say it again. if you can talk to the human who has shown you a buying signal within 5 minutes of them coming to your website, opening your email, filling out a form, seeing you on LinkedIn, commenting on your post, if you can have that conversation within 5 minutes, you have a 900% better chance to close that deal than someone who waits 10 minutes. So you got to go old school. You got to pick up the phone. Humans buy from humans, right? And the same tracking activity can be applied to your follow-up, right? So if it's you that's following up, you got to track yourself, be honest with yourself. Or if it's someone on your team who's following up, the exact same metrics can be used to track the follow-up: volume, velocity, and value, right? It's not complicated, but it takes time and attention, right? I get the question all the time, hey, Kara, can you do this for my company? And the answer is yes. But more importantly, you can do this for yourself, right? It doesn't take a lot of the right word, intelligence, right? These are really easy to use, democratized tools. There's a lot of them for sure, and it can be confusing. But if you can find someone who can put this all together for you, it can be super impactful. In the US, there is a sort of group of leaders, if you will, in the idea of revenue operations, right? Go to market, revenue operations. These are MarTech guys. So these are the guys that started, they wrote the book, ABM is B2B. They wrote the book Move, which is the 3 steps to GTM, right? And these guys are hyper-focused on all things revenue operations. So revenue operations is 3 things. It's sales, marketing, and customer success. And the revenue operations team sits on top to make sure that all of these folks are getting measured and that they're doing it appropriately and that they're sort of one team. The biggest issue is when sales and marketing are at loggerheads, right? Everyone has this. If you've ever worked for a big company, it's always a challenge. So we try to break down those barriers by putting a team on top of these 3 that can sort of be the one source of truth, right? So whether you need 1 or 10 or 1,000 leads a month, it doesn't matter. You can build this robust lead gen engine. You take these 3 things: share good news, track interest, follow up, measure volume, velocity, and value. And if you're the kind of leader who's interested in testing new strategies for growth and using the newest and best tech, you can do it. You just got to sort of put the work in or hire someone who can do it. A quick story about really truly taking the bull by the horns, right? So in 2009, my boyfriend and I had been together a minute, right? And you remember women in their 20s, right? I wanted a ring on it. Right? Like, I was like, when is this happening? So, and this guy, he was top shelf. He was a top shelf dude. He is a nuclear engineer fitness model. What? Like, they don't come in this variety very often, right? But if we did this on his time, it would never happen. So I booked the church. I just booked it. I booked the church. And I put the receipt for the church on my refrigerator. And he comes over one night and he's like, hey, what is this on your refrigerator? And I was like, oh, I forgot to tell you. I booked the church for my wedding. And he says, we're not engaged. I was like, yeah, you got 265 days to do that. Or I'll find someone else. Long story short, we've been married 11 years and he's never been happier. So the goal here is to just get out there and do something, right? Book the church. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But get out there, try the thing, buy the tool, get creepy, right? Take the next step. So instead of just like working on what you're going to post on LinkedIn, post, right? Get off this call and go post to LinkedIn. There's lots more cool things we can talk about in terms of times to post, type of content to post, what kind of tools you can use to post on your behalf or post on someone else's behalf, et cetera. We can talk about those. But really the lead gen is really, the lead gen formula is super simple. Keep it simple. Share good news, track interest, follow up. It's taking the initiative to test a bunch of stuff and tracking everything that's within your control. So I believe that we all have moments where we can make choices that are really going to determine what happens next in our lives and our businesses. So you have sort of 2 choices after this talk, right? You can, 1, be like, all right, cool, that was nice. She was a nice speaker. It sounds like she puts a lot of stuff on LinkedIn, and you can forget about it. Or you can take the challenge from today and you can post to LinkedIn, get yourself a ghostwriter, find someone on your team, who can really crush it for you. So I hope our time together today helps you to take some action. That's what I got.
That's amazing. Thanks, Kara. Wow. Wow. Yeah, we've got some questions here. I see Ritesh has his hand up. Now it's down. Ritesh, you trying to ask a question?
Hi, Kara. Thank you for that. I'm just going to
Yeah.
read a question that I wrote while you were speaking, which is around ghostwriters. I struggle with that because of the authenticity of that for me from a values perspective, and maybe there's nothing wrong with it. But then also, you said accept anybody who kind of wants to kind of connect on LinkedIn. I feel like I get spammed by a ton of people, and I don't want to be that person. So, what are your thoughts on that?
So I'll ask the second question first. The second question, and I also, once you get over like 5,000 or 10,000 followers, like people just want to link with you all the time just to get part of your network, which is fine. I just ignore it, right? From my perspective, the LinkedIn inbox has just become another spam filter for me. So I don't usually respond. Like occasionally, maybe there's someone occasionally there's someone from EO in there and they're like, hey, I'm an EO member. And then I have to like dig it out. But I don't care, right? Just like engage with them all. They end up sending you a spam mail. Who cares, right? The goal is to get your network. You want LinkedIn to think that you're a powerhouse. And the more folks that want to link with you, the higher your credibility goes in LinkedIn, right? There's two ways you can do it. You can add a follower button. So instead of having actual connections, you can have a follower button, which doesn't put them inside your LinkedIn. When you do that, there's actually a barrier to entry then, right? So you create a follower button and you have to right click or click the 3 buttons in LinkedIn to actually connect with me, which means that the folks that are actually connecting with me are actually going the extra mile, right? So I'm like, hey, if they want to hear from me, awesome, right? They think I'm smart. So that's sort of the answer to your second question. Answer to your first question on authenticity of the written word from a ghostwriter. So I've been doing this for a while. The way that it works is I sit down with the ghostwriter for about 40 minutes, sometimes an hour, it depends. She also writes all my long form content for Forbes, right? So if you're under 40, you can get into the Young Entrepreneur Council. I think it might be under 45. And the Young Entrepreneur Council is just posting to Forbes, right? So you get to write 1 article a month for Forbes, and it's like $1,200 a year. It's super cheap. And so my ghostwriter writes these 4 LinkedIn posts. She then creates Google Drive files, right? So now after doing this for 2.5 years, we have like 500 Google Drive files of my words. So she really uses more words. She really uses my words, puts them in a Google Drive, and then I can go in and edit if I need to. For example, this last week, we used an example of a company called FleetCor. They do Fuelman fleet cards, very sexy. And she had it wrong. She had the wrong company. So I had to go in and just change to the right FleetCor. But for the most part, she does a pretty good job. And then I can edit anything. The last thing I'll say on this is I now have 500 posts that are my words. That's the book, right? The book is written. I didn't have to write it. So one day I'll hand these 500 2 years worth of Kara Brown's thoughts. I'll hand this to a ghostwriter, like a book ghostwriter, and say, here, you go put the chapters together, right? So lots of benefits to having that person. It did take us probably 6 months to get to a point where we were like in the groove. Hope that's helpful. Should we answer the, how do you do the tracking?
Yeah.
Yeah, Kara, this is Sanjeev. How are you? I know we have been exchanging a lot of mails to make this event happen.
Yeah.
And it's great to have you with us. So I just wanted to understand, I know this tracking is very scary. So can you just explain it a bit more? What's the best tool? How do you go about it? Because, you know, as you said, there's so many marketing technology tools that it's so confusing out there that we are using so many things, but when you're using too many things, you're not using anything.
That's right.
So, you know,
that's right.
So point is that how do you go about doing it? Just give us because that's going to be a very, very important part of the funnel. So how do you make that happen?
Yes. So
and
we do this
also
every day.
and one last question.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that, look, you create a profile, you get people to know about you. And I do understand that fact, and that if people want to buy from humans, so they So our team also needs to have a nice profile writing so that when they reach out to someone, he looks at them. But how do you actually generate leads? So what is your thought? Do you do in-mails? How do you go about creating those B2B leads with the right people to be able to sell to them? So just that is something I didn't understand properly.
Sure. So I'll answer both questions. So the first is, what's my recommendation on tracking? We love HubSpot. HubSpot just eclipsed Salesforce on the Gartner CRM Magic Quadrant as the best in the space. We think HubSpot is by and far the best. It's also really, really inexpensive. And it is really inexpensive to find people to use your HubSpot, right? So you don't have to pay a lot to get this up and running. Sort of the two things that are really important in using any HubSpot, right? Number one is you must make sure that your entire TAM, your total addressable market, is inside your CRM, okay? The CRM is only as good as the content or the records that are inside your CRM. So I'll give you an example. So we start working with a company called Trax. They do freight bill pay and audit, very sexy. They're managing the freight bills that come from freight forwarders. And they say to us, hey, we want you to do lead gen for us. No problem. So we sign them up, we get going, and we're like, tell us how many records are in your HubSpot. And they tell us 4,000. We're like, but your TAM, your total addressable market of all the companies that you could be working for, is close to 50,000. You're missing 89% of the market, right? So really, really important is finding the records for these humans. So I've given you a leave behind is at the top of the chat bot in the Zoom. In that leave behind are 3 examples of places you can go and get this information. ZoomInfo is one of them. I just don't recommend it. Number one, it's really expensive. Number two, their sales process is awful. We just don't love ZoomInfo. But if you already have it, it is what it is. Number two, thanks, Nikhil. Number two is Sales Intel. So Sales Intel is a tool just like ZoomInfo. Manoj is the CEO there, and he is going aggressively after ZoomInfo. It's cheaper, same information, and with Sales Intel comes Bombora, which is the free version of intent data. Super important. And then lastly is like Clearbit, Sales Lead. If you go to G2 Crowd is the sort of Trust Pilot or the Yelp, if you will, of B2B software tools. You can go to G2 Crowd and type in ZoomInfo versus, and it'll give you all of the options, right? So the first answer to your question is, before you do anything in a tool to track, you have to have the humans in the tool that you want to track, right? There is an application inside HubSpot that comes out of the box. You don't even need to turn it on. It's just already there. You do have to put one piece of code on your website, but it's a super small piece. You can have your website developer do it. If Nikhil is in my space, let's just pretend that he's the CEO of Expeditors. They just got hacked, right? He's in trouble. And he comes to my website. I know because he's in my CRM that he's on the site. I also know if he's clicking around, what he's been doing, because HubSpot literally tells me inside his profile in HubSpot. I don't have to do any work. It's already there. There's something in HubSpot called lead scoring, and the same can be done in Pardot, right? There are a bunch of tools that do this. We just think HubSpot's the best. There's a thing inside HubSpot called lead scoring that you can set up that says, if Nikhil comes to the site, reads our webinar, opens an email, then he deserves a phone call. He has shown us enough buying signals that it's time for us to call. So the second question that you asked me was, how do I take the lead gen, the LinkedIn work I'm doing, and apply it to lead generation? Nikhil will also look at me on LinkedIn, right? He will also be looking for content that I'm posting about what I do on my website. You'll also notice on my website, I don't have a blog. There's no blog on my website. No one's coming to your website to read your blog. I'm really sorry, but no one cares. Nobody cares. They're not coming to your site to read your blog. Even me, no one's coming to my website to read my blog. They're going to read what I post on LinkedIn because it's where they spend their time, right? So the last sort of piece that I'll share with you is very technical, but I'll share it because you asked. The best way to do LinkedIn lead gen is this. This is the pattern. 1, I share a piece of content that gets picked up by a trade magazine. For us, that would be Supply and Demand Chain Executive, okay? So Supply and Demand Chain Executive puts me in a press release. 2, I put the copy of the press release on my website. Okay, just the copy, not the press release itself. And at the very top of my website, where this copy is, I put originally seen in supply and demand chain executive. Okay, then I take the link to my website, which has a big old form in the bottom of it. Link to my website goes on LinkedIn. So the image that you see on LinkedIn, where you can click to go to something, goes to my website, not just supply and demand chain executive. So I get the juice from the trade mag, but when Nikhil clicks on it, he goes to my website. The minute Nikhil clicks on it and goes to my website, I'm alerted that he came to that landing page. And that landing page tells me that he came from LinkedIn. This is all done inside HubSpot. You don't have to code anything. You don't have to spend time with a developer to make this happen. It comes out of the box from this tool. The key is how you use it. So I'm going to go through it one more time. So I get picked up by a trade magazine, or I just put out my own content. You don't have to get picked up, but it's really sexy when it's done this way. So I get picked up by a trade magazine. I put that content on my website. I put my website on LinkedIn. And then I ask my friends like you all to also like, comment, and engage. So yes, you're not incorrect. Your team, your company, the folks that work for you should all be like, sharing, and engaging on your content. When that happens, that content, that little piece gets more exposure. And then Nikhil clicks on it, goes to my website. I call, I'm like, hey, so good to talk to you. It's so weird. We haven't caught up in like a year. And he's like, oh, I'm looking for lead gen. Oh, I didn't know. That's so great. Right. And so that's how the engine works. I hope that's helpful. It's like pretty granular, but it's the way we do it for clients.
I love how you break it down there. That's amazing. So you have a couple other questions here. A question about book recommendations. Do you have any for us?
Oh, so many books. They're all on my bookshelf. Wait, 2 of them are nearby. Where did they go? Yes, the first one is ABM is B2B. There is a new sort of, here they are. There's a new, it's not actually new. It's not new, it's old. It used to be called targeted selling, but now it's called account-based marketing. If you're in the B2B environment, everything should be based on account, right? So you should have your CRM set up so that you can see the humans that work for the company, but the companies are what goes through your funnel. This one, ABM is B2B. I'll put these on the sheet too that I'm gonna send to you. This is one of my favorites. The second from the same author is called Move. This is his go-to-market strategy. This is where you can learn all things revenue operations. My favorite part of this book, he actually gives you when we talk about tracking and measurement, he actually gives you what you should track and how to measure it. It's kind of awesome. And at the back of this book is a list of people, actual humans, that do this for a living that you can hire, which is kind of crazy, but fantastic. So here's an example of, this is the executive CMO scorecard, and he shows you how it changes when you go down. This is the sales scorecard, right? So this isn't mine. I didn't write it. Kind of wish I did. But he does a really good job. And the last one is Aaron Ross. He wrote a book called Predictable Revenue. This is Aaron Ross's Predictable Revenue, if many of these. His next book, From Impossible to Inevitable, is probably better, but this is like the 101. So this is the 101 of sales funnels, how it works, right? SDR, BDR, MQL, SQL, all the acronyms you can get from this one. I hope that's helpful. Those are, I love that I like literally have them in my office.
Very current. Divakar, you've got your hand up and you have a question?
Yes, so Kara, thanks for the presentation. It was outstanding. I was doing some R&D on the RevOps and SalesOps infrastructure to be created. So what would be a good starting point? Because I think the book which you mentioned and the page which you actually showed is a RevOps dashboard, if I'm not wrong. Now, how do you begin creating a RevOps setup? Because I think now we are moving from chief sales officer to a chief revenue officer kind of a thought process. So if you can share what would be the starting point for that, that would be interesting.
Yeah, I love how you're like way more sophisticated. Well done, sir. So the way I would start if I were building RevOps today is I would start with the KPIs that are going to link all three groups. So what is the KPI 1 to 3, no more than 3, that all three groups are going to share? And if you're incentivizing
groups,
them,
what are the 3 groups? Sorry.
Sales, marketing, customer success. So revenue operations, the goal of RevOps is to sit on top of these 3. So what normally happens is sales, marketing does marketing. They hand the leads to sales. Sales says these are terrible. These are awful leads, right? And that's a breakdown. And then sales closes deals that customer success can't implement because sales is just trying to get things over the finish line, right? I don't know. Anyone have this problem? No, just me. Okay, cool. So, right, so this is the issue that RevOps is trying to solve. I actually think it's a terrible name for what they're putting together because in my head, RevOps is like, how much money are we making? And like, there's more about like ongoing upselling really than anything else, but it's fine. This is the way they use it. So my recommendation is when you sit on top, what are the 2 to 3 KPIs that all 3 of them can agree on? And then if you're incentivizing them, incentivizing all 3 groups equally on these KPIs that we're all going to share, right? So whether it's, you could do velocity to close is a good one, right? So marketing brings it in, sales has got to get it closed, and customer success has got to get it onboarded. So how fast that takes could be one really solid KPI. And let's just say today it's, I don't know, 30 days. And you're like, hey team, we're going to work to get this down to 10. So if you can get this to 10, I'll give you all, I don't know, some sort of spiff, or I'll give you all a piece of the pie, because I know as the owner, if I can reduce my velocity to close from 30 to 10 days, I can 3x my top line revenue, right? So I'll give you all a piece of that all day long, right? So that's, I would start with what is something that the 3 of them can all contribute to.
Get it. And in terms of HubSpot, right? Currently we use Zoho CRM from lead gen capture till bookkeeping. Now,
Yep.
HubSpot looks like an intelligence layer which can come on top of it. And from there, once the funnel is through, the client is ready, gets converted, you push it through the CRM. How does it work?
So Zoho and HubSpot would be a rip and replace. So if you have Zoho today, you'd have to rip and replace it with HubSpot. There are tools that will sit on top of Zoho and give you some reporting. Domo, Tableau, but like those are really more like reporting engines. I gotta get back to you. There are definitely tools out there. So what I would search for inside a G2 crowd is marketing attribution reporting.
Got it.
That's the language that I would use, because the tools that sit on top, what you're looking for is the tool that sits on top of Salesforce or sits on top of HubSpot, which is like one layer more sophisticated. But Salesforce and HubSpot come out of the box with really sophisticated reporting. I've worked in Zoho. Zoho's one big issue is reporting. Like you can't get great reports out of Zoho. So to answer your question, HubSpot, Zoho would be ripping in place, but there are definitely tools you can put on top of Zoho to give you the visibility you're looking for.
Got it. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. The presentation was outstanding.
Oh, great. I'm so glad.
I think it's about time to wrap up. So I want to say thank you so much from MEPA Bridge to Kara. This was a session of abundance. I felt like I was drinking from the fire hose. I'm so glad we recorded it, because I think I need to watch it over and over and over again. We will share the recording on our chapter YouTube channel. And Alex has posted a survey link in the chat. Please click it now, because as soon as we close the Zoom meeting, you're not going to be able to find that link. So please open it in your browser now, and then give us your feedback. And
can I give you just one or two? I'm really sorry to interrupt you, Nikhil. Can I give you one more like tip and trick on the?
Absolutely.
So they're on. Ooh, here we go. There we go. Okay. So it's on the Google Drive that I put in the chat really quick. I'm just going to share two things that are kind of creepy. So as you're going through here, this one, Crystal Knows. So Crystal Knows is a psychographic profiling tool that allows you to see the psychographics of the people that are talking to you on LinkedIn. So for your NIKH, let's see if I can find you. Or this is going to be fun. Is this you?
Well, all I see is your Google Doc.
Oh, you don't see the, oh, sorry guys. Okay, I won't show it to you. Anyway, when you go to Crystal Knows, you can see the psychographic profile of the people that you're looking for. So if you go on LinkedIn
Wow.
and you click on Kara Brown, it's super cool. It's super creepy.
I like that word, creepy.
Super creepy. Kara Brown is a captain. It also tells you if you're going to email me, do not email me more than 3 sentences because I won't read it.
Wow.
My husband, the nuclear engineer fitness model, it literally says, send him many paragraphs of like data-based stuff, but don't call him because he doesn't want to talk to you. Like, wow. It's very clear, and it's all based on your activity on Google and LinkedIn, but it's one of the coolest tools that I've used in a really long time. And then one last one before we get off is Lavender. So in full transparency, I'm on the cap table of this company, but I think it's the coolest thing I've ever seen. It will help you and your teams write better cold open emails. So if you're going to send an email to someone that's cold, don't do it without using Lavender. Like, it has made our emails and our email open rates just skyrocket.
Amazing.
So I wanted to make sure I shared those two.
Nikhil, just one, if you don't mind. Kara, can you share the list of books which you mentioned?
Yeah, I'll add them down here. You got it.
Thanks, Kara.
You got it.
Clearly, we've only tapped into the 0.1% of your knowledge that you're willing to share with us. So out of this call, how do we get in touch with you? If we want to get more information, if we want to work with you, how does one get in touch with Kara Brown?
Yeah, no problem. It's at the top here. You can just shoot me an email, phone call. I'm on the EO Global stuff too. So
does that email come to you, or does it go to a human?
No, this is my actual email.
Okay. It will get to you and you will read it. Wonderful.
It does go to me.
Kara, it's been amazing to have you today with us. And a big thank you to all of the members who joined us. And like you said, you kind of keep people engaged right till the end. And I think you did. I want to give the mic to Safa, who's going to speak to our prospective members, people who are on this call who are not yet members of EO or not yet members of MEPA Bridge. So MEPA Bridge is a unique chapter in that it's a virtual chapter and it spans the entire MEPA region, which is the Middle East, Pakistan, and Africa. And we have some people who are here from neighboring regions and chapters that are not part of our region. And why would you want to join MEPA? Safa.
So as per a session that I attended recently, and we have a 900% chance of closing deals now because you attended this session. You've heard Kara Brown. Okay, so we're trying to capitalize on this for now. So just to tap in on the serious note, and this is to you as well, Kara. So we're a bridge chapter, and we cover Middle East, Africa, and Pakistan. We are a bunch of guys who were a very small group 9 months back, and now we're now more than 60 plus members. Majority of us are primary members, so it's the only chapter that they have, and a minority of us, maybe 25 plus members. This is our second chapter, a secondary chapter. So we're enjoying our membership in our primary chapter, and we're also enjoying the benefits that we get from being a part of MEPA Bridge chapter. All what you have to do is you have to pay twice the local fees for that. And mainly, we're quite a diversified chapter. I keep on arguing with Alex about the number of nationalities we have. I see 16, she says 15 nationalities from all around the world, from United States to Indonesia, and we have 60 members, and majority of the members, what groups us together is that most of us are curious and enthusiastic about learning and about reaching our full potential with you, and also are curious about Africa and the Middle East. So if you're curious about Africa and the Middle East, you want to expand your business, this is the best group of people that you can be part of. and we have cool speakers like Cara Brown every time, all the time. Okay, so Alexandra or myself are the right people to reach. If not, you can always type an EO network and apply now, and we will. EO has a decent lead generation, okay, or data collection tool that will allow us to reach you backwards. Nikit, Mike, back to you.
Thanks so much, Safa. So with that, everybody, that's our hour up, and this is EO. We start on time, we end on time. So I'll let everybody go back to their days. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on the chat. Thanks, Cara. Bye.